Okay, these are the 4 o'clocks on all this side that Meg and I had talked about taking them all out. I thought she was, but then when she came, she said no. And they just get scraggly. I'm not out here when they bloom, and I wanted them gone and this entire area filled in with flowers, shrubs, something that could handle all the leaves from Gary's tree, my neighbor, and my 4-story high swamp maple that is enormous. And the leaves come down now and cover everything. All right. She planted hostas, or her people did. I've lost, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4 of them. I have to go back to my paper and photographs. They just didn't survive. This whole area was just depleted soil with some weeds and grass, and they did nothing to restore the soil. There's roots from this big tree that run all through this yard. So it gets very dry. I have watered and done everything correct. I'm 66 years old. I've gardened all of my life. I know what to do. I just have illnesses now, and I struggle to get to the ground. I can't dig and plant and do things like that anymore very well, and it's really puts a hurting on me. So I had this landscaped so I could take care of it. These plants, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. They've looked like this, scraggly, hardly any leaves, didn't bloom all summer. This one down here was leaning all year. I thought the sun was pulling it that way, and maybe it was, because it's the only one that gets a tiny bit of sun. But I found there was roots on top of the ground, and it wasn't planted well. I had to add soil. There was a great big pocket where there was no soil. There was no voles or moles. Voles eat foliage on plants. Moles do not. But I checked, no voles. These are not doing well at all. They need to be replaced. Something else. When I went back, I finally found a tag on one of them. They took the tags off everything, and she used botanical names, and she didn't state the particular variety of that botanical. But so I had no way to know, and she was never very nice. She was rude from the beginning. In the end, I got an email saying she didn't care. She had personal problems going on, and Carrie, the owner, said that she only likes big hardscape projects. So my little project to her wasn't worth her time, and she wasn't nice. And I had lost my mom. Was going through a nightmare, and I really didn't want to deal with her or go up against her or go back at her and push. I did a little bit at the end, but I trusted her also. Nancy Pinnock at the county, they won't recommend people, but she did, trying to be nice in my case. And Shipp and Wilson, she thought, would do the best job for a smaller project like this. And they did not. They did a terrible job. This whole area, the mulch that's down, they put what's called, I never heard of it, fines mulch. It's just a tiny, this is dirt. I mean, the mulch they put down was so minuscule. I told her, when a bird just flew out of the sky and plopped down, the mulch disappeared. It's just dirt. They did nothing to enhance the soil. I always, when I plant something, I dig a big 2-foot at least hole, the bigger than the ball of the plant, and fill it with fresh soil and put nutrients in it and organic matter, because this is depleted soil. Um, and they told me it was all depleted, especially in the back where I had landscape fabric. All this used to be rose bushes. They were very, very old, and a lot of old things that I had taken up, and I wanted it replanted. So these plants are never going to do good. They're never going to bloom, and everything is white or light purple. And that's not what I asked for. And I asked for something to be blooming all year round. Doesn't have to be everything, but I want color. I want flowers. I want something blooming. These things, it's like there was only on this one down here a couple dirty little puff things on it, and everything blooms in early spring. So there's nothing blooming once this little bit blooms. And I'll show you back there. But these she put in, they're okay. I told her about a variety to go in the back. These are white, and I don't know how fast they're going to grow. I'll probably be dead before they're big enough to do anything of any substance. I'm not a well person. I'm ill with a lot of diseases, and I explained everything to her very well. And I want to see flowers relatively quickly. I don't want to wait 10 years. I'll be gone by then. So, it's like she just didn't listen and didn't care about anything. But these are just pathetic. So the hostas, Carrie knew about a few of them. The other ones didn't come up and didn't survive. It's like, I talked to a couple of different nurseries, and some hostas, they planted a couple of different varieties, 3 different varieties. Some do better than other in certain conditions and with drought and with different soils. So I think they kind of picked some varieties that didn't work so well. But back here, underneath this crepe myrtle, kind of right where the crepe myrtle's coming up. Whoops, I ran into a spider web. Let's get out of that. She planted, and I have photographs of when they first planted. She planted Nepeta, which is cat's pajamas or something like that. And as you can tell, they all died immediately, no matter what I did. And I've got crepe myrtles coming up everywhere. That never happened in all these years that I had dug these gardens a million years ago, before I ever became injured and ill, because I'd put down thick landscape fabric. And then on top of that, I had at least 10 inches of mulch. I didn't mulch like that around the plants, but I put it in the areas that I had no problems. So now, this crepe myrtle, I have this, it's all coming up everywhere, out there, everywhere. I can't dig it up and keep it down. I asked her to leave my landscape fabric, and she said no. So they took it up in places where they were planting, but they left it in other places, and I'll show you that. So in these crepe myrtles, there's pestinens or pestinon. I'll put it all together for you. I'm probably not saying it right. There's 3 of them planted, and everything planted in this area of rootiness, because this crepe myrtle, there's nothing but roots. And I told her that. And Carrie said herself, the owner, he would not have planted those here. She shouldn't have done it. These 3 are the only pestilens that are dying. And the crepe myrtles are coming up in the middle of them. And like I said, it's rooty. The only thing surviving is the sedum, which I planted a long time ago. Sedum does well in all kinds of conditions. But, She could have done a variety of different kinds of sedum with different colors, but the other pestilens are living. These, I couldn't even, I mean, they were watered and watered, but couldn't keep them alive. And plus, again, there's minimal mulch. That's all there is. It's just dirt. And again, this was all landscape fabric, and they did nothing to amend the soil. They put a sprinkle, and I mean a tiny sprinkle, of fertilizer in their hand, like around it when they planted. Well, I saw them do it over there. I don't know if they did it back here or not. These are a type of coreopsis. I told her to try to plant something that would last all season and that had color that I could see from my deck way up there, because I don't come back here and stand in the middle of the yard, okay, in the middle of the backyard. This has to be deadheaded. I told her I could handle some deadheading, but it, to try to do something high, like tall phlox, something like that. I named several varieties that bloom during the summer, and she put 3 of these in. This one, that's as big as it got all summer, all year. It barely came up, and that's it. So, and Carrie said, "Oh, I'm not replacing that. It'll grow." No, it did not. So these, they've all been watered. Everything's been watered. They didn't do much. The only other thing she put over here was this yarrow, which is Achilles. It was not a bright color from what it was stated on the invoice, and it has struggled and struggled. The one that died on the other side that I'll show you, it was barely dug a hole for it, and it had just matted roots under it and a piece of landscape fabric it was trying to grow on. I did another video, but it was no wonder it died. These viburnums, I'm not asking for these to be replaced, but they are not what I asked for. I asked for the ones that have the great big huge panicles that get enormous, and these bloomed early in the spring for a very short week or two, and then they were gone. And the flowers are small, and it looked from up on the deck, it looked like just bird poop on them. I swear it's not what I asked for at all. I told her there was a location just down Lakeside Avenue, cross 95 on the left-hand side, a big house around the entrance to Bellevue, and told her that they had the viburnums there, and they showed, I didn't know the name of them, but that they had enormous panicles that bloomed all summer to fall, and they were gorgeous. That was okay being white. That was the one thing I said could be white, and she planted these instead. I don't know. She said she would, came in under budget. Well, I offered her $2,000 to $3,000 more to get what I wanted to make this garden really nice back here and to have things I could look at. And I don't have anything to look at during the summer back here. The only thing I have to look at is the things I have planted. And, the ice plant growing over here. There was nothing that bloomed. Even only 2 of the hostas bloomed, and they were yellow. They were white and pale, so pale purple you couldn't even tell it was purple. Now my sedum. So I'm getting nothing blooming. Oh, I did have those hydrangeas in the very back near the fence. They bloom early spring for a short time. That was it. They were white. What I had left was these Rebecca's, these daisies that they're dead now, but there's a little tiny one blooming, but they bloom profusely, and I told her she could take some of those and move them around to give color in other places instead of buying something if she wanted to. These are the pestilens that, like the ones that died over there. These did great. They don't have a ton of color, only if you plant them in groupings like this, because there are a purple but a pale purple, so they don't show up well either unless they're in a large group. This was okay, I could see this, but the others, no, you can't see them. These are my lilies that I planted. Here are 2 pestilens that she planted. I could see them a little bit, not much. I planted this coneflower, and it's now wintering, going into winter mode, but it was a bright colored flower. And I planted liantris and guara in these pots. I also found some more coneflower, and this was a bright purple, and there's a bright orange, and I planted it appropriately. So I'll have some color there, because this is where the other yarrow, the Achilles, was. It was pale purple, and it just died. It never came back after they planted it. And that's the one that was planted very shallow, and it was, they didn't even dig a hole. There was no indication of a hole dug whatsoever, and it was in a rooty mess, and it had landscape fabric underneath it. So it really didn't have anything to dig its roots into. So no wonder it died. And this will bloom that I put down here. It's a type of dianthus, and it's tickled pink, and it'll bloom little pink flowers. You know, it's hard for me to do this stuff. I told her this needed to be clipped back. Of course, you know, they didn't do that, but that wasn't on the contract. I thought I was going to be able to do it, but didn't. But this gets the most sun. So I wanted perennials planted. I told her this lamb's ear, this is lamb's ear, all this, it's mostly growing, it grew out, it's mostly growing on landscape fabric that they did not take up, and they left here, didn't even cover it with mulch. Over there, they left it here, and it was running all through here. So, you know, they didn't cut it and take it up. There's more. I told her to take up the lamb's ear, and if she wanted to keep some of the good pieces, replant it, or use some ornamentals, low-growing grasses or something appropriate, and then intersperse it with perennials that would give pops of color that I could see, that I don't have to do a lot of pruning to. Okay? She didn't do that. So this lamb's ear, it just dies. All of this just dies. That's just what it does. It dies. And not real attractive. So not a real good. She didn't follow instructions. She didn't listen. She didn't care. So this bed, and it's late, I have other photographs, but I've got coreopsis that bloom for a long time yellow. I've got bee balm that bloom red, Shasta daisies that bloom white, tall phlox that bloom purple, a yellow, another type variety of coreopsis, thick leaf, blanket flower that is still blooming that I had to prune very little, other colors of coneflower. I forgot the one in the back, it's purple. Stillwell that blooms spiky pink. Now the sedum is blooming. More coneflower that's doing really well and still blooming. My Yarrow is still blooming, and I had daisies that bloom different places, and more yarrow and different things over here. I had tons of flowers in my little bed that were easy to take care of. Um, she did put down the rocks. She wasn't going to do it, but she did do that because I was getting really frustrated, and I started pushing back at her. But Richard Kuhn, who owns Stylecraft Home Building, made a mess out of everything and ruined my fence. So he had to put up a new fence, and the rock, there wasn't enough rock anymore back here. He put my fence in the wrong place, and I asked her to put rock in. She didn't want to do it. She said no at first. She said yes, and then when she came to do the project, she said no, and she ended up doing it because I got a little bit pushy back then. I just have too much on me as an ill person and all the things I've got on my plate. And look, this is going to actually bloom again. All those blooms. So I'm going to have brilliant purple flowers again. And that's sweet. And that's tall. That's tall. I don't have to cut it all the way back to the ground. So I can handle that. Why didn't she do that? Then over here, I asked for a lilac, and there was a dead butterfly bush here that I paid a guy because she didn't want to take it up, so I paid somebody else a lot of money, more than it should have cost to take up, and she planted a lilac she finally agreed to do, but it's the wrong variety. It's not the one I asked for, and it's got this dead stick in the middle. It's not grown an inch, has the same leaves, and it only had a tiny bit of bloom on it, and it was a light pale purple, so pale that I thought it was white at first, and no smell to it at all. And the one I picked out was a luscious, luscious deep purple color and smelled delicious. So they planted the wrong thing. Other than that, she took up some grasses in the front, and that was it. And so, did I get what I paid for? No. Did I get what I asked for? No. Kerry came over. It took 9 phone calls to get him over here in March. And I threatened to go to the DPR, which is why I'm making this video, because I still am. And he sat here the whole time and said, oh, well, she shouldn't have done that. No, I wouldn't have done that. No, I wouldn't have planted that. And I said, the 4 o'clocks she nixed, taken up. And he said, oh, well, we can do that. But, I said she wanted to plant more hostas. He said, no, I wouldn't do that. He wanted to do Hellesboris. Well, they bloom early. I wanted things to bloom all season. Now, this gets shade from the tree, okay? I told her that. It's all cloudy today, but, that's good for the hostas. And, I even use Miracle Grow. So, the liquid with my sprayer. Nothing, it didn't help. I mean, they did not do anything to this soil whatsoever. You can't just let depleted soil, and they told me everything back there and here was depleted, and not put nutrients in. Why didn't they take the extra money I offered and do this right? That's what should have been done. But these Fothergillias, they got to go. They're not ever going to do anything. There's not enough sun, and they look terrible, and they've been like this the entire summer. So they didn't bloom, and they don't have the leaves. I've got pictures of what they look like when she put them in, and they were full of bright green leaves, and they're just not. I mean, this one grew a little bit, but the rest of them are the same. They're in shade all day, except for a tiny bit in the late afternoon. So, and then the shade and the sun doesn't come up this way, it's in the back. So, anyway, that's the landscape job she did for me. And I was trying to get things looking nice, have color, so I can see. I love color, I love flowers. She gave me everything white or pale purple, and everything blooms in early spring, and that's it, except for those coreopsis. And they're small. I have to get down to the ground and deadhead them. She could have put other things in that would have been more appropriate. If this yarrow makes it through the winter this time, I will be surprised. I've done everything I can for it, and my stuff is doing great. There's no problems with my flowers that I planted because I did it right. I don't know what they're going to do about the crepe myrtle because I can't take care of this. That's why the landscape fabric was down. It kept all the weeds and everything under control, okay? And it was really, really thick, almost like pond liner. And so, no. I don't know how they're going to deal with this because I can't dig up all this vertical under the ground growing sideways crepe myrtle. And it's all rooty back here. I don't know what they're going to find unless they just plant different kinds of sedums. I don't know. And wasn't my job to research. It's their job. I have more on my plate than I can handle with a workers' comp court case where they've cut off my medication, everything after 25 years. Plus contractors that have damaged and ruined my house inside, this on the outside. I'm not well. I've lost all my doctors. It's just everything. My mother died in the pandemic. I explained everything to her, and she just didn't care. And the mulch back here, I told Carrie that I asked for at least a minimum of 4 to 6 inches. And she said, we don't do it that thick. I don't care what you do. That's what I asked for, and I was willing to pay for. So bring it. I am paying for it. Now I've got the minuscule amount down. It doesn't hold any moisture in. When you've got a dusting and this fines mulch, Carrie also said, now he's the owner, oh no, I wouldn't have used that. No, I wouldn't have either. I didn't even know it existed. I've always used double shredded thick pine mulch, and he wants to use hardwood. And I said, no, that gets nasty fungus. I don't like it. It looks nasty and ugly. It gets yellow. It's ugly. It looks nasty. He said, well, that's what we're using. He said, and I'm not paying for it. Well, you know what? I didn't get what I asked for. I'm not going to pay to redo this. They're out there. He's got so many jobs. He didn't call. He didn't show back up. He did say when he left after being here for almost 2 hours, well, just send me an email. He said, but I don't have time. I'll be back in the fall. And I said, no, I cannot be out here watering in the fall with my diseases. I have 2 types of nerve disease that blanket my body. I have vein disease. I have autoimmune disease. I have all kinds of issues. I'm not going to be out here in this damp, chilly weather watering plants, okay? I got them watered, and I did it last year and got everything just, to the point where it was growing so well. But, I can't control the fact they didn't put enough mulch down, that they planted them in the wrong areas, that they were planted inaccurately, and that's out of my control. I can't control that. Again, it's like, look, here's the lamb's ear. Why didn't she replace it? Why didn't she pull all this up? Why did she leave the landscape fabric? Why? She was also supposed to do something with my broken slate. I had extra slate, and for her to put down and make a nice path and patio. She didn't do that. It's like, no, And she didn't put every last picking thing in the contract. And I guess I just need to be more cognizant of that. I guess I trusted her because the county trusted her and Nancy trusted her, and they got such good reviews, and I really thought they were going to do a great job. And you can't trust anybody, I'm finding out, and that's a shame in this world. But you can look over here. They left landscape fabric. They didn't bother. It's been sitting like that. They didn't bother to cover it up. It's just like torn and ripped everywhere. They didn't put any mulch in here. They didn't do it. They just, I wanted this whole area redone. And I should be able to get it redone for what I paid and adding $3,000 to the price. That would have been what? $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 to $9,000. Certainly should have been able to put some appropriate shrubs and some perennials in here and things that would bloom and give me pleasure. I don't get a lot of pleasure out of life these days, but it sure would have been nice. I got a big 10,000 square foot building behind me all year. That was noise, but I didn't get anything for the garden to enjoy. I mean, some of this stuff bloomed before I was even out here in the yard. It was, So that's the deal. I think I got everything, but I'm going to post this on YouTube because it's too long to put it regularly on any attachment. So that's it. And the leaves are going to fall, and they're going to fall big. And she said, just let them fall. Well, no. And Carrie implied this, that the little whirligigs that come in spring off this old swamp maple, there are tons of them this last year. Oh my God. And they were everywhere. So I sat on my little wheelie cart before he came over and murdered my spine, which is in bad shape, and my hips are necrotic and one's replaced. I have numerous issues there. And I had a box and went around and wheeled around on my little cart and hand picked up and brushed them into the box. He implied that somebody blew the leaves out and caused the mulch to disappear. No, this mulch was here and just like it was, okay? That's what all it was. The leaves, everything, it's like I painstakingly did it so it wouldn't disturb the mulch because there was such little here and I didn't want it taken away. So he's wrong. I did leave leaves way in the back. If you want to see them, they're pretty much just, and now I'm tired, gone now. But I did leave leaves back here and let them mulch up. So it's like, wasn't hurting anything, but the rest I took up in that other bed because I wanted him to see the layers of mulch. I wanted him to see those plants, and I wanted him to see what was done. I mean, like, this is just dirt, plain old dirt. I mean, when I put mulch down, I put it down thick so it lasts. I can't afford to do it all the time. I put it down once and it lasts for a number of years. And like I say, I know better than to pack it up around plants. You don't do that, but I know how to do it appropriately, and that's what I asked for. So I didn't get anything that I asked for with this project. Okay, that's it. Thank you.